Fist of the North Star is a classic anime manga series all the way back from 1983. It has manly men, manly tears, and cool martial arts action. It also has not that many good video games. There was a PS2 fighting game that was apparently decent when you weren't finding the 200th way to abuse its mechanics, but for a while, the best you would get were the Ken's Rage games on the PS3, which were low-budget Dynasty Warrior spin-offs. It's a bit sad for a series that deserves at least one really good game, but then, wandering through the metaphorical wasteland, appeared the savior of the no-good game apocalypse. Fist of the North Star, Lost Paradise, a spin-off of Sega's Yakuza Like a Dragon franchise. Now the Like a Dragon franchise, or Yakuza if you prefer, has been growing more and more popular lately, and as a fan, I couldn't be happier. It's also gotten its fair share of spin-offs, including the Zombie Apocalypse one, but never one that just takes the series' gameplay and puts another IP on it. It was a surprising announcement to say the least, but it had potential. At the very least, Fist of the North Star protagonist Kenshiro was pretty similar in personality to Kiryu Kazuma, and with how ridiculous the Like a Dragon franchise could get, Fist of the North Star wasn't as big as a leap as you might think. Then, in 2018, the game finally came out, and it happened. Fist of the North Star finally got a good video game. Even as a budget Like a Dragon title, it's a decent entry in the franchise, actually having one or two slight changes that I think surpass its contemporaries. A true hidden gem for fans of either series, or just those wanting a fun video game. So let's take a look at a game that feels like it was made specifically for me, as I show you why Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise is worth playing. Starting off with the story, your first question is probably, what is Fist of the North Star and do I need to know anything about it? Thankfully, you can go into this completely blind and still understand it. In the world of Fist of the North Star, the nuclear apocalypse happened. The land is a desert, and bands with mohawks and shoulder pads rove around killing everyone. Thankfully, one of the people who survived was Kenshiro, inheritor of the martial art Hokuto Shinken, the titular Fist of the North Star. It's a style that makes use of pressure points to do a variety of things, like healing, erasing memories, making people fall in love, and most famously, making people explode. This game is rated M for, my, that is a lot of blood, although there is a setting to lower it if you so desire. At any rate, the game starts at the climax of the first arc of the series, with Kenshiro fighting his rival Shin after he stole his girlfriend Yuria and left her for dead. After that, the game goes into an alternate timeline kind of situation. Kenshiro follows rumors of Yuria to the city of Eden, a prosperous settlement built beside a domed city of sorts that provides power and water. They'll eventually befriend the city's ruler Kasana and guard Captain Jagger, characters original to the game, and then the plot of the original series will just kind of catch up to him. Well-known parts in the series like saving Toki from Cassandra prison or meeting Rei on his quest to find his sister will still happen, just in the context of Kenshiro interacting with Eden. Add in an original faction of bandits, Kyo and his army of ruin, as well as the mystery of the Sphere City, and you have the plot. So no, you don't need to know anything going in. Weirdly, the game is a decent entry point to the series, as you'll get a good taste of the series proper, but without the full story. In terms of the new characters, I actually ended up liking them quite a bit. They fit well into the setting instead of being too obvious they don't belong. Now in terms of the overall story, it's just alright. It's a serviceable story, but even as a fan, I wouldn't say Fist of the North Star's plot was ever high art. It does feel to me though like the mystery of the Sphere City was a little out of character for the world, but that's the minor nitpick. Overall, it's a decent story for Fist of the North Star standards. A fun part of the writing is actually just being Kenshiro. He's a very stoic character, kind, sincere, and filled with righteous anger. Again, similar to Kiryu Kazuma if you're familiar. The point is, when you put him into a game with a bunch of silly side quests and situations, it's pretty fun just to see his reactions. Like when he gets hassled by a bunch of pacifists because blowing up murderous bandits doesn't give them a chance to change, or how awkward it is for him when he accidentally breaks a valuable vase he can't pay for. The Like a Dragon's signature weird and varied side quests are here, and Kenshiro is a fun straight man to have. So if it wasn't clear, this is a typical Like a Dragon game with the Fist of the North Star skin. If you've played one of them, you'll know what to expect. If you haven't, well, the game mostly involves wandering around town, completing various side quests and a variety of minigames at your leisure, progressing the main plot when you feel like it, and getting into a lot of fights where you combo enemies until you can hit them with a stylish special move. And that's the key word I'd use here, stylish. Now at this time, the Like a Dragon users had moved on to their fancy Dragon engine, but that wasn't being used here, reportedly because this was a mostly new team and the engine was a bit demanding. From a technical level, this isn't the best looking PS4 game. Textures are alright, but what the game really goes for is capturing a comic book style look in the color choices and shading. I think it does a really good job of transferring the style and look of Fist of the North Star to its character models. The models of main characters tend to look pretty good. What it lacks in definition, it makes up for in style. From the way moves look, to the way blood explodes from bad guys, to the way special moves get their names said every time, just like in the series. The game certainly feels right for Fist of the North Star. Even if it had the most detailed models and environments ever, it wouldn't matter if the style wasn't there. The soundtrack is alright, nothing really grabs me, but nothing that I hate either. The game actually features a bunch of tracks from other Sega games to listen to as you drive around the wasteland, so that's pretty cool. What this game is actually notable for though is the voice acting, in both of its languages. Before Judgment, this was actually the first game in the franchise to get an English dub since the original release of Yakuza on the PS2. So yeah, there's an English dub, and it's pretty decent. But if you're a fan of the Like a Dragon franchise, or just used to Fist of the North Star being in Japanese, you may want to turn into the sub. This game borrows the voice cast from the Like a Dragon games, so if you know these voices, it's like a fun bonus game to see how many you can find. Kenshiro isn't just like Kiryu, he's voiced by him. But speaking of borrowed elements, let's get to the gameplay. So if you played one of the non-RPG Like a Dragon games, this one's pretty easy to understand as it's about 90% the same. But if you haven't, this game is about half beat 'em up combat and half minigames and side quests. In terms of the combat, you'll be fighting the bands of the Wasteland or those causing trouble in the city of Eden. You have a light and heavy attack button, what we'll call a special button, kind of like a grab, and you can occasionally consume a special gauge to power yourself up for some more damage or stronger moves. Generally you'll be stringing your light and heavy attacks together, but here's where it diverges from the Like a Dragon series. When enemies take enough hits, you'll be able to perform a really damaging special attack on them, performing a flashy move with quick time event button presses for extra damage. Sounds pretty standard, but the important thing is, it's not tied to your super gauge. That just puts you into a powered up form. Where every other game, including the Like a Dragon games, would lock the high damage finishing move behind a meter of some kind, you could just keep firing them off, and you're encouraged to. They level up with frequent use. Another important difference, specifically from the Like a Dragon games, is that this is done with what's essentially the grab button, instead of the series' normal heavy attack configuration. I mean, you could hold down another button in those games to prevent you from accidentally using up your super meter on a move you didn't want, but it wasn't ideal. Even if I wasn't able to spam the super moves, the small change of their activation being to grabs instead of heavy attacks is just so much better. But while I'm calling it the grab button, that's not quite accurate. It kind of acts like a stun to throw into your combos. Then, not too far into the game, you get the added ability to inflict heavy damage with it by timing an extra button press. This perfect channeling, as it's called, puts the finishing touches to the combat. Enemy formations actually tend to consist of a bunch of fodder and a couple of bigger guys, kind of like restoring Ken's rage. Makes you feel powerful to just mow them down. But the point is, with perfect channeling as a method of dealing good damage without needing a full super move, the combat starts to flow between enemies with little to no interruption, just moving from one to the next. Perfect channeling also causes enemies to drop health pickups and such, and sometimes their screams of pain will solidify into a weapon, which you can then pick up and it deals just ridiculous damage. You actually collect death cries throughout the game, and it's great. I don't know if I can explain it that well, or even show it off the best, but I swear this might be the best feeling beat 'em up combat system in the Like a Dragon franchise, especially when you upgrade yourself. Don't know if that's a controversial take, but I'm sticking with it. Speaking of upgrades, they always slightly change how they work in these games. So in Lost Paradise you have 4 skill trees, pertaining to your basic health and damage, learning new skills and techniques, your super gauge and related things, and talismans, which we'll get to later. To go through them, you need 2 types of skill orbs. Colored skill orbs are specific to skill trees and are obtained through story progression or certain minigames. Then we have generic skill orbs, which you get by leveling up. Using a combination of these orbs, you can choose if you want to increase your damage, prioritize new moves, or maybe put it all into health. You get some options for what you want to put them into first. And to be clear, as I think some people misunderstand this, your actual level doesn't seem to affect your stats. It's more of a general power level based on how many skill orbs you should have at that time. Aside from equipment, including a shirt, pants, 2 accessory slots, and a slot just for shoulder pads, we have talismans. In the fiction, they're manifestations of Bond and Destiny or something. In-game, they're abilities with a cooldown that can provide a temporary boost or let you do a powerful move that insta-kills normal enemies. You'll get them very gradually throughout the game, and they even get their own skill tree. By the end, you can have up to 12 of them equipped, and you get skills that grant bonuses based on sets of characters. They're like another form of equipment. Besides boss battles, which are generally similar to normal enemies just with unique movesets, I think that's it for the combat and character building. Although one more thing this game does better is having the option to refight bosses in the Colosseum. Basically every Like a Dragon game has a Colosseum, but not for bosses. That's post-game stuff. It just feels like such an obvious inclusion. Now for the other half of the game. At the end of the day, this is a Like a Dragon spinoff, even if it's more scaled down in some aspects. And that means it has a bunch of side quests, a bunch of minigames, and a giant completion list for all of it. Side quests work pretty normally. You wander around enough, and Kenshiro will stumble into someone in trouble and get involved, usually resulting in some experience points and maybe a good item. They're mostly short, but can be quite humorous at times. One of them involves an old man shoulder pad salesman being driven out of business. People take shoulder pads seriously here. The thing with the side quests though is that they go hand in hand with the minigames. Minigames come in 2 types in this franchise. The smaller ones like batting cages or karaoke, and the larger, more elaborate ones. But since this is Fist of the North Star, batting cages are replaced with smacking bikers with a steel girder, and the rhythm game is Kenshiro healing and killing people as the local doctor to the beat of classical music. I'd say there are 3 notable main ones though. The first is bartending, in which Kenshiro mixes drinks with kung fu action and befriends the locals of the town, unlocking storylines with them or new items to buy in their shops. Then we have hostess management, where Kenshiro finds himself in debt and becomes a manager of a club because he can deal with the thugs. There's a bunch of different girls to collect, side quests to unlock more, you can level them up by giving them gifts. This isn't that odd for Like a Dragon, and it's the best way to make money in the game. Finally, there's driving, and well, everything to do with your car. Apart from the town of Eden, there's a big wasteland to explore. It's mostly empty, cause it's a wasteland, but you could drive around, gather materials for crafting, upgrade your car, find more girls out there for your club and side quests, and go racing. The driving controls are a little slippery to say the least, but I think it's pretty fun. The wasteland's maybe a bit too big and empty, but it does fit the setting. You can even get treasure maps from defeated enemies to hunt down in the overworld. There's just so much optional content to do in this game. You can apparently even find the 1986 Sega Fist of the North Star game and play it in your Fist of the North Star game. I will say now though that if you're the type to go for 100% completion, be a little wary of this one, it's bigger than you think. So does the game have any notable problems? Well, as mentioned, the story and overall graphics are just good, not award-winning. In terms of the gameplay, it takes a while for the game to open up. With 11 chapters, it takes till around 6 or 7 to finally be able to do a bunch of the content. Until then, you're kinda just on rails for a bit based on not being given much else to do. Also, while not really a big issue for the average player, you can't complete the skill tree without New Game Plus. There aren't enough of the gold orbs you only get from chapter completion. It's a minor issue, but I can see it bugging some people. Basically, don't spend them unless you're sure. It's just really odd they did it this way. But in the end, I love this game, though it may be a bit biased. As a fan of both properties that make out this game, it puts a big smile on my face from multiple points. The Fist of the North Star characters are represented well, and the new ones to the original plotline are also solid. The stylish graphics may not be the best looking to some, but the way Kenshiro's aura glows and how he makes guys explode captures the Fist of the North Star feel. The slight changes to the Like a Dragon combat system really work in my opinion to help make it fun and make you feel like Kenshiro. So if you're a Like a Dragon fan looking for a great spin-off to the series, a Fist of the North Star fan looking to finally get a good game out of the franchise, or just some guy who wants to play as someone who makes people explode by punching them, go play Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. If you liked it for some weird reason, consider leaving a like or comment. If you didn't like it, well, leave a comment anyways about what I did wrong. If you want to hear about more games I think are neat, or whatever random thing I end up making videos on, maybe also think about subscribing. Whatever you choose to do, I hope you have a nice day.